Morning, guys. Brad from Vintage Axe Revival. It's Wednesday. I was asked by a good customer of mine today who's new to axes if I could show him how to sharpen an axe using a bench-mounted belt sander. So I thought I would just go through that really quick. There's not a lot to it, but there's some things to learn. I'll just go over it really quick with you guys. So this is the Kalamazoo 1x42 belt sander that I use. I'm going to put you guys right here so you can kind of see what's going on. This is a little Craftsman head that I'm working with this morning. I'm going to be putting it on a little red handle. I'll have it for sale later on. This particular head is pretty much brand new. I mean, it is old, but it is barely used. It has a convex edge on it. The initial portion of the convex is pretty steep, maybe 27.5 degrees. So you have your primary bevel down here, and then this is up here, this little shoulder is your secondary bevel, okay? What we're looking for is gonna be a convex edge, so it's gonna be shaped like a bullet. It's gonna come up and then round off a little bit. Liam Hoffman has some really good videos on that, explaining a convex edge, the benefits of it and things like that. A little hatchet like this, a good durable all-around edge, would be somewhere in that 27.5, 25 degree range. I am basically going to go with what's already established on here, and I'm going to just sharpen the edges that are there. I am going to change the profile a little bit in the process of doing it. I'm going to leave my jet dust collector off for this demonstration so that you guys can actually hear me. This is an 80 grit belt. When working with metal, there's different types of belts that are recommended for metal, for wood, and things like that. I have found that whether it be a silicone carbide, belt, or it be a zirconium belt, or whether it be a ceramic belt, I just have not found that any of them last much longer than the other. So in my personal opinion, if you're going to be doing wood and you're going to be doing metal on your sander, just go with a relatively inexpensive silicone carbide belt. So this is start with an 80 grit, then I do a 320 grit. Now, if getting rid of those 80 grit scratches is super important to you, you may want to do another belt in between that and 320 grit, whether it be, 220, 180, whatever it might be. But I go to 320, then I go to 600, I go to 800, I go to 1000, and then I use a leather stropping belt on the same 1x42, okay? So it's pretty simple. I basically utilize different placements on the belt depending on how much of that convex edge I want, how much I want that belt. You see how it wraps around the edge? Now, some people will sharpen this way with the bit up. Some people will sharpen with it down. I do it both ways depending on what the situation is, depending on how I want to utilize the flexibility of this belt. The other thing too about belt flexibility, these are pretty stout, heavy-duty belts, and you can get belts that are geared more towards knife sharpening, and these are very, very flexible. This has a JFF weight, or an F weight backing. This is a 1000 grit. So you can definitely get very lightweight belts that will conform to the shape of the bit better, especially when working with knives and things like that. Red Label Abrasives does sell a kit. It is high grit belts and a stropping belt. They sell it on Amazon. You can pick that up if you want to. So also you may want to get yourself one of these Richard Kell angle guides on Amazon. Mine is polished because I polished it. But anyways, it's nice to have. The other thing too is if you don't want to invest in a stropping belt, because they're not cheap, they're about 20 bucks, 20, 25 bucks, you can definitely use just a leather strop like this. This has rough leather on one side, smooth leather on the other. You put a little bit of compound, whether it be something along the lines of an extra fine honing or polishing compound. The Tormek compound works pretty well, but to be perfectly honest with you, white polishing compound works very well. I use white polishing compound on my leather belt, okay? To utilize a strop, it's just like a barber uses a strop on a straight edge. You're just gonna wipe it back and forth, or do it all in one direction and then do it in the other direction. But you always wanna be doing it with the blade like this as you're pulling it back. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna take the final burr off the edge and smooth it and make it as sharp as possible. If you are really new to this and you're trying to figure this out and work with angles and things, basically when you lay this into the belt and you give it a little bit of pressure, that belt is going to follow that convex edge the way you want it to. Unless you need to change the profile of this considerably, which you'd have to do either with a file or a hand type sander and things like that, or a grinder. But in this case, a nice thin head, thin cheeks, nice 27.5 degree convex edge already. Basically going to show you the process. This is 80 grit. We'll do the 80 grit and then we'll see. But you guys will see how it goes. What I'm checking for here is to make sure I have a consistent reveal. Okay, you can see it's a little short here, a little wider here. It's because the thickness of the head, the cheek, is not consistent. So you do have to sometimes pay a little bit more attention to the ends. And you'll notice when I come into it, I'm going at a little bit of an angle, and I come out of it, I'm going at a little bit of an angle when I'm trying to get to those edges. Okay, as you can see, I've done there. Okay, now we're going to do the other side. What I do is I do eyeball the edge to make sure that I'm filing or sanding evenly on both sides. I don't want it to get off center. I am looking for a bead or a burr on the end. Now, I want to show you this. You can see the burr starting right there. You can see the reflection in the light. And then you can see it right on the tip here too. So the goal is to get this whole thing to burr up. That burr is coming from this side, not this side. So you need to work both sides to bring these two edges as close together as they can come, and that's when you're going to get that burr, okay? can see the burr coming along here, along this edge, rough. Okay, you can see a little bit right here where it hasn't developed the burr yet. So there's some imperfections in the bit towards that bottom edge, towards the heel. So I am going to try to work that back a little bit further here so you guys can see what I'm doing. You can see that that edge is still not creating a burr because it's a little uneven here. These edges are all perfect. You guys will notice that I'm doing this bare-handed. I normally do this with cut-resistant gloves on because as soon as you get your finger into an 80 grit belt and you take all the skin off your knuckle, or worse, you hit it sideways and it actually cuts, you will learn to wear gloves. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. So we basically have a burr along this whole edge. I am pretty happy with the symmetry of the convex edge. The angle, I don't think really has changed, but let's take a look. It is, still right around, the secondary bevel is right around 27.5 degrees. The primary bevel's a little bit thinner than that. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing with 320, 600, I do 800, 1000, and then I do a leather stropping belt. So I will pause this now and then we'll come back and show you the final product. Thanks.